Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. This is our launching this morning. We're so excited to be here. And good morning to Jamie, my partner in crime here. We're excited to bring this to the world. We've got a wonderful message to share, and we are here to help anyone that feels like they are hopeless to provide hope based on our journey. And we don't want you to have to fight the battles that we have fought. So maybe we can help you make life a little bit easier and you can learn from our mistakes. So we're here to help change statistics that are going on in the morning. How are you doing, Jamie? How's your morning going?
Doing good, thank you. I'm so excited to be here for our first episode of Real Food Recovery.
I know.
My morning is going great.
I know. I'm just thrilled to get this started. And let me start by just saying a little bit about me. I am in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas. I am a food blogger. I do TV segments for our ABC affiliate here, Cake News. I'm married, a mother of five. We've got 9 grandchildren, which they are supposed to call me Grandma. That is my big official title. That's the best job that I hold right now. So that's exciting for me. I'm an avid exerciser, very involved in family and my church community, and just so happy to be here. What about you? Tell us just a little bit about you, Jamie.
Sure. So I'm Jamie Morgan Reno. I am a Jersey girl, born and raised, now living south of Houston, Texas. And I love the work that I get to do in the healthcare world as a leadership development and curriculum development professional. And I am also a wife. I'm a stepmom, a new stepmom, and is definitely a title that I am very grateful for. I'm a sister and aunt, nature lover. I have a blog on YouTube, video blog on YouTube called Such a Pretty Face, where I'm bringing a lot of awareness to the topics that we're going to be talking about. And I love cooking, organizing, travel, road trips, game nights.
You're very active, very social. I noticed that about you. You do not fear getting out there and doing anything, which amazes me because in recovery, I just was always afraid of white knuckling it through anything outside of my norm. So Jamie has a lot to share. She has a blog. I forgot to mention the name of my blog is Food Fitness by Paige, and my degree is in nursing. I have a 4-year nursing degree from Wichita State and also a food addiction recovery advocate certification as well. And that kind of leads us into where Jamie and I met. We were in the same recovery community, and I saw her on a Zoom call and I liked her instantly. And I knew she's going to like me too, whether she knows it yet or not. So that's when I first met Jamie. Do you remember when you first met me?
I don't remember the very first time, but I remember you were a constant presence of love and kindness. And I remember thinking she's here for the long haul. And that's a big deal in the recovery world. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's so interesting you bring that up because, and we'll get into this more, but it's interesting how it's tough. People come and go. So often people come and go. We see that all the time. It's just hard. And one of the things that we want to do is I always believe in making recovery fun. If you're not having fun, we're doing something wrong here.
Right.
And we can make some edits so that you are having fun because it's a better life when you're recovered. So we want people to stick around for the long haul. That's why we make this simple, easy, enjoyable. So yeah, I'm glad that you shared that too. So we both have this same passion. Jamie, is there something about your passion that brings you to this place here? Why would you want to take time out of your day to come here and be with me and talk to all of our new friends?
Good question. So I spent 40 plus years of my life in the prison of processed food addiction and unhealthy habits around food that affected every single aspect of my personality, every single aspect of my life, my career, my relationships, everything. And I found freedom. I found my way out. It wasn't just about losing weight. It wasn't just about a number on the scale or a number on my jeans. it was so much more. My whole entire life changed. My personality became more of who I am and less of the addicts, sort of insecure mindset. And I really started to thrive in so many ways. And that's why I started my YouTube channel, and I started to get the word out there about recovery, what recovery from food addiction looks like day in, day out, what choices I make, how I live my life, what my self-talk sounds like. And I have been dying to do a podcast on a regular basis, but I didn't want to do it alone, because I believe that when there's more than one voice, people have different perspectives, and that brings a lot of value to the conversation. So as you and I both know, God brought us together. We have this partnership in podcasting, and it's just the next step for me in the platform that I'm building.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think for me, I have always, so I started out in nursing. I did about a dozen years in the medical intensive care at Wesley Medical Center here in Wichita, Kansas. And then I left for some other more lucrative business opportunities. But the healthcare just kept pulling at me, pulling at me, pulling at me. And I struggled from the time puberty on, really, with weight. I was a spindly little kid, very active. But once I hit puberty, man, things just, I got curves, and it just wasn't as easy as it used to be. And I always felt like I was kind of on the cusp of fitting in. I was just on the periphery looking at all the cool kids. And I always felt like weight was the defining factor that kept me just kind of pushed to the outside. And I always felt uncomfortable, and I was always hungry. And I didn't see anybody else seem to be obsessed with food like I was. But and then as I got older, it still, I struggled with that constantly. Food was always on my mind. And so when I finally found recovery to where I didn't have to live feeling like I was in a prison,
Mhm.
then I could help others out of that too, because it's so torturous. It's
It is.
just such a torturous
Absolutely.
24-hour a day, 7-day a week. Your addiction is chasing you, and I'm tired.
Mhm.
And others have to be tired too. And it affects every aspect of your life. It robs you of your joy.
Yeah.
The statistic that really hit home for me too is 1.6 million Americans die every year from diet related disease. That means those are optional. Those are optional
Exactly. They're
deaths.
preventable diseases.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Food is the number one preventable cause of disease.
Mhm.
And if I can change even one person and improve those statistics, by gosh, that is what I am here to do. It's that important to me. And I've made recovery fun by creating the food blogs and creating fun recipes that I love and I enjoy.
Exactly.
So the passion of it's fun to win, but it ain't fun to win alone. It's a lot more fun to have a party with you and bring people along. That's where the real joy is for me.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
one thing that I really love about what you shared is you have not only the background as a clinician, right, as a nurse, but you also have the background of wife, mom, food blogger, recipe creator. You've got all of these ways that you have brought recovery in and connected it to all the areas of your life. And you also have a different journey. You mentioned that, grew up a spindly kid, and then, once puberty hit, you got curves and food became a little harder to regulate, and body weight, regulation was sort of front and center in your mind. For me, I had a different background. And that's why I love our partnership, because
Mm-hmm.
we have such different backgrounds. My background was obesity, morbid obesity, most of my life. There was, when I hit puberty, which of course I hit very early, because I was so overweight. When I hit puberty, I was already obese. And so I, really, it became a life or death situation for me in my 30s, where I really knew, okay, I'm not only am I addicted, but I didn't want to admit it. I was killing myself with food.
Mm-hmm.
Subconsciously trying to harm myself with food. morbid obesity and all kinds of issues, diet related disease issues around, pre-diabetes and sleep apnea and all kinds of, blood markers that were out of whack. I had all kinds of joint and mobility issues, depression and anxiety and everything in between, emotional dysregulation. I was very sick. And so to be on the other side of it now and to have the health that I have and to have the mindset that I have and the movement that I do and the food plan that I do is freedom, and it's total joy. So that's what I love about our partnership page, that we're both bringing, our stories, our very different stories, because we will touch someone who has our history. Right. Somewhere we are covering both sides of the spectrum of what this addiction can do.
Oh, I agree. And that's, as you were saying that, you have come a lot further than I ever had to battle with. And I'm sure your drive to make sure your stepkids, your family members, your friends, your loved ones all know, hey, there's a way out. There's a way out, because I would gather if you struggled with that, I'm sure you have other family members.
Yes.
It generally runs in families. And we also know obesity, addiction, it's all progressive. Exactly. So unless you get a handle on it, it's just a continual down spiral. And it's so painful in every single aspect of your life. You literally can't get away from it. It follows you everywhere you go.
Everywhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
And it wasn't, and it ruled my life, not only from a perspective of food, but it also ruled my life in my emotional life, my thought life, my attitude. It was insidious in every way. And, one of the things I love about you, when I met you and started to work with you and started, to see you as a presence in our community that we were a part of, you have such a huge heart and a kind soul, and you're so smart, and you were so inspiring to me because of your family life, the choices you make as a wife and a partner, how you inspire others around you to do great things that they do. I really was so struck by that I thought, if I hadn't done this recovery journey, I wouldn't be able to acknowledge the gifts of other people like I'm acknowledging in you and in others that are in recovery. And that's I think one of the best gifts of recovery is being able to see not only the gifts in others, but the gifts in ourselves.
So wise. Such a smart point about being in a community of like-minded people and how we gain strength from each other's stories, because we know that we bond through shared experiences. Mm-hmm. And I like to say a rising tide lifts all ships. And I have found that when someone else is successful, when I hear something profound they've done, it's that feel-good story, and you just want to cheer them on. And it also gives you so much more courage to go out there and say, if they did it, maybe I can do it too. And let me find out how. So yeah, I love that point. Well, we want to talk a little bit about what we're here to do. What's our mission? And really, it's to empower others to find a way out of this dark place through physical health, through emotional health. Mm-hmm. And we do not promote a certain food plan. We are food plan neutral. The only thing that we promote is non-processed food or very minimally processed food. And so we have found that is a huge component of recovery. It's a necessary component of recovery, discovering that the processed food industry is a bazillion-dollar company. And that happened because here's a quick elevator one-liner about the tobacco company. When it was had to stop advertising in the 70s, it went in and bought up the major food company, General Mills, Hershey's, Nabisco, and applied the same business addiction model to the food industry as it did to to the tobacco industry. They're a smart industry. They're money makers. And so they hired these scientists to come in and add the highest salt, sugar, fat to all these processed food items, food in air quotes, because really they're chemically produced in industrial.
Food-like substances.
Yes, they really aren't food. When you have an ingredient list of 20 long and the syllables of each word have, 5 syllables that you can't pronounce it, you can't use it in a sentence, you don't know what it means. That's not food. That's not real food. And that's kind of where our name came from, real food recovery, because it is necessary for real food to really recover fully. But yeah, so
for 1 second, real quick, Paige. I just want to circle back on the tobacco industry. Tobacco, how big tobacco became big food. That's really important point you bring up. I don't know if our nation understands really what happened back then in the 70s and early 80s, which ironically was when I was growing up, right? I was born in the mid 70s. So for me, I grew up right in lockstep with the processed food boom and the boon of advertising. And so I want our listeners to kind of understand that, through research that's been done and released out there about how big tobacco, when they were on the losing end of the legal battle to promote their products, they realized that they were going to lose all of that money. So they became, very fixated on how to switch America's addiction from tobacco to something else. Food was the lowest hanging fruit, no pun intended. They went over to food almost like Paige was saying overnight. And they put all of those dollars and all of those researchers and all of those product development people and marketers towards food. And that's when you saw in the late 70s and the early 80s, the rise of
skyrocket
and processed foods and TV dinners and all kinds of new convenience foods that really the tobacco industry was behind. So if anyone doubts that big tobacco is still out there, they are out there. They have become big food. They have become even bigger than they were as the tobacco industry, and more insidious in everything they do. And they partner, right? They partner with media companies and pharmaceutical companies and other organizations and industries to make sure that they really have control, like Paige was saying, control over our minds, our bodies, our hearts, our attention, because not only of the marketing, but also of the formulation of the products, the sugar, fat, and salt.
Right. They're brilliant. They're brilliant business people. And let me say that they knew that hiring these engineers to create these formulas to the highest bliss point, they knew ahead of time that will addict these people. And they did it without our permission and without our knowledge. Then they were even more ruthless by applying marketing strategies. They bought real estate in grocery stores, eye-level shelves, end caps, displays. The cartoons went from 50 on a morning to 500. They made it affordable, accessible. And also at that time is when the high fructose corn syrup came on the scene in the early 80s. And I mean, obesity just skyrocketed. Right. And now we have gone from obese. There's two categories that have really taken off lately. We've gone from obese to extreme obese, as well as childhood obesity is rampant. I mean, when I grew up, there might be one kid in school that was overweight, but now it's the norm and it's scary. So whatever I can do to stop a child from suffering, whatever we can do to get the message out there by educating people, that's what we want to do. And so that takes us into what should you expect from us?
Yeah.
Hope, right? There's hope. Hope. Whenever I'm working with people, every single time by the end of the conversation, what comes up after we've had a conversation about what we're going to do and how we're going to make a plan is the word hope arises in every single meeting I have with clients that are looking for a way out. They say, I feel like I've got hope, maybe for the first time. And we are here to tell you there is a way out of this, and we're going to pull you out. We're going to pull you out, and we're going to do it through a few simple strategies that we have to solve everyday problems. We're going to share lots of vulnerability. We're going to share our stories. We're going to share, we have a few pillars that we think are fundamental in recovery: education, connection, community, spirituality. We're going to give you food ideas from my food blog. I'll be sharing those. We're going to have a Facebook and Instagram page as a landing page. And we also will be offering health coaching individually and in groups. But we're going to share recipes with you as well, and hope that you will share with us some of recipes that you use to exercise, movement. When I say exercise, nobody panic. This is not boot camp. Nope. We don't mean boot camp. Nope. We mean movement. Why movement? It increases the endorphins. It's good for you. You're going to like it. Yeah. Doing something that you find is fun. If you can find yes. And if you can find a partner to take a walk, it is nothing that, believe me, I don't want anybody to go out there and kill themselves. That's no fun.
What if they take a walk? What if they take a walk while they're listening to our podcast? Wouldn't that be a great way to get motivated?
It'll go by just like that.
That's right.
And like I said, drag your neighbor and make them go too. But yeah, perfect. And that what you just said, that's how we figure out small, simple things. When I create salads for 10 days, and I always have a podcast on in the back. So those are the simple tricks that we have figured out how to make recovery fun and doable and affordable. So all those types of things are what we want to bring to the table. That's why we are here.
Yeah. And our branches, Paige, I just want to reinforce what you talked about, the branches or the foundations of recovery that we have learned in our many years of recovery. They are education, connection, attitude, or I like to say thought life. What's my thought life like today? Food, movement, and then spirituality. And, Paige, let's just we talked about a little bit of our story. How many years have you been in recovery from the food?
I have people ask me that, and I say from my earliest memory, because I remember as a kid, sugar was my drug of choice. Was that you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't remember not ever. I mean, I wanted it. I remember as a kid going on either a trip or a day trip with a friend, and we went to, their parents drove us to meet one of their adult friends, and she had made this dessert. And even as a child, I remember thinking, I wonder if I can ask for a second piece of that. This was so good. And that is burnt in my mind, that everybody else in the room seemed calm and nobody else was speaking up wanting seconds, but I knew I did. Yeah. And it didn't appear as I had an issue because I didn't have a weight problem. And I could pretty much control my weight within reason until I was 40s. I lived off the dessert diet only up until 40s. And then over that next decade or so, that 10, 15, 20 pounds crept up, that when menopause was starting and all of that I could no longer out exercise my calories. My metabolism was slowing down. My body was changing. So then that compounded the problem and made me even crazier, because I couldn't figure out what's going on. I'm still doing the same stuff and I'm still gaining weight.
It's crazy making. Totally get it. Yeah.
I love that word. It is crazy making. And like I said, I thought about food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What am I going to eat next? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do if somebody brings something into the office? Or what am I going to do? How am I going to manage this situation? Where now it's so calm and relaxing because I've made a firm boundary, and there are certain lines I just do not. I know that I cannot have one bite of sugar, because for people with an addiction, one bite is never enough. And that, one bite is too much, and it's never enough. So there's no end point to it. And it's terrifying. It's a terrifying place. When those cravings come on, it's like an aura just sweeps over you. And it's almost like it gains motion control.
Yes,
I can be in the fetal position on the inside, just weeping, saying, please stop. But at the same time,
absolutely.
I
Yeah, like a robot.
literally had no physical control, which was always wild to me because I was this ultra controlled person, successful in every area. I could not get this one thing under control. I,
I
I,
get it.
it was like I was two different people.
Right. Yes.
I was this highly successful, capable person, and then I was this weak, crumbling, loathe-filled person
Around
at the
it.
same time. It was very confusing to my brain. And
Mm.
in this addiction community, I learned about the difference between the center brain and the frontal lobe, and
Mm.
hearing how the center brain, once you have a craving, this frontal lobe, the logic center, the braking system, the long-term consequences, whenever you get a craving or triggered, there's neuroimaging that just shows how that blood flow feeds back here to the center brain that houses drugs, alcohol, sex,
Yeah,
gambling,
the emotional brain.
shopping addiction.
Yeah.
That message up here says, you get it and you get it now, and you don't stop until it's all gone or you're too sick to carry on.
Mhm.
And it, like I said, it's an aura that washes over you. So we want to help people understand how to bring that blood flow back in
Yeah.
simple
And we're going
little
to go
ways.
into a lot of detail about brain science and this, because it's part of it. Understanding brain science is absolutely part of it. And we want to make sure that we're presenting it in a way that is memorable and also a way that people can actually apply.
That's
So
it.
it's and the goal, right, of sharing the science that we will share, and that's why education is one of our branches, right? One of our branches of the tree of life of recovery that we have, and you guys can see it on our podcast logo. We
Yeah.
have tree of life. It was very, strategically chosen because we want these branches of these foundations on the tree: education, connection, attitude, food, movement, spirituality. All of these are parts of the way out. So this education that Paige is talking about, the brain science that we'll share down the road, we want to make it so that it's freedom. Education is freedom.
Oh,
Once
I
I
love that.
understood what Paige just talked about, once I understood the science of the way the brain reacts to those highly processed foods, or my brain reacts to those highly processed foods, once I understood the science, I felt way less ashamed and way
Yes.
overwhelmed and way less depressed, because I thought, well, gosh, my body is reacting exactly the way it should around hyperpalatable, highly
Right.
processed foods.
That's their job. They were designed for
Yeah.
you to react that way.
We'll talk
If you,
about all that.
so how long have you battled addiction?
It has been, I started recovery formally in 2009. So it's been now 15 years. And I was in really 2008, I started the emotional part of my recovery, and started the food recovery in 2009. So it's been 15 years, and it has been quite a ride. Going from over 400 pounds, losing over 250 pounds, and keeping that weight off. And now on this journey through perimenopause and menopause, and having to relearn what works for me and what
Mm-hmm.
works for my body has certainly been a new challenge, but I don't shrink away from it. No pun
Yeah.
intended. I'm learning a lot about how to, um, navigate that. But I'm also, finding a lot of freedom in this phase of my recovery, because and we'll talk about this too. One of the reasons that we have attitude as one of our branches of the
Oh, huge.
is how much my self-talk has changed, and also how much my connection to self, with my thoughts and with my intentional behaviors, my connection to self has changed. My journey of recovery has been a journey back to myself. It's really, it might look like, body shape change. It might look like a different career, might look like a podcast or a YouTube, but it really is a journey back to self, and back to loving all parts of me that I spent 40 years of my life pushing away and
When
rejecting.
when did you when did you start fighting addiction?
Oh, a little kid. I could have easily been an alcoholic. I just liked brownies way more.
Me too.
And they were socially acceptable when you're 6 years
Oh,
old. You know what I mean?
every event you go to has to
Yeah.
be filled with, the dessert table, everything,
Yeah.
our society, everything.
Yeah.
I have girlfriends that want to go to lunch. I say, I'll take a walk. We can take a
Right.
walk. I
Yeah.
don't go out to lunch.
Yeah. Why?
Why?
Or the coffee shops or any of those things. It's just
Mm-mm,
they're highly cute environments I don't need to be in. I'd much rather be in
mm-mm.
nature where I can keep my calm, serene.
Yes. Yeah, I call it the perfect trifecta when you go for a walk with a friend. You're connecting, you're
Yep,
in nature,
that's right.
and you're communicating, you're talking at the same time and sharing. So it's the ultimate feel good experience is taking
Agreed.
a walk in nature with a friend.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um, that pretty much covers our first episode. Was there anything else that you want to share before we get on? We've got a few viewer questions that
Yeah.
we want to incorporate each time.
Let's jump
Anything
into
else?
those.
Okay.
We're super excited.
Yeah, I'll read to you what the first viewer question is.
Sure.
I think I may be addicted to food, not just flour and sugar, all food. From the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, all I can think about is what food I can eat next. Is there hope that I can ever stop eating?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to beat around the bush. Yes, there's a lot of hope that you can stop eating, but it's not about stopping eating. It's about changing your relationship with food and changing your relationship with yourself and watching the food evolve from there. Yes, there's absolutely hope. And I can identify 110% with how you're feeling. I was ruled by food the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed. I was never really a nighttime, like middle of the night eater, like some people get up and eat in the middle of the night. I was never that person. However, there was a period of time that I did do that for about a month. And I thought, what is going on? What am I doing here? I'm standing in front of the freezer with a spoon in the ice cream. Like, what's going on here? And I was well into my recovery by that point. And I thought, yeah, I have found another layer of addiction that I need to strip away. And so for me, I did find a lot of hope. And what I thought was going to be a journey of deprivation and a journey of resentment and a journey of resistance really became a journey of freedom and love and acceptance and abundance.
I love that. And so it's so interesting because when we are eating all day long, it's not about the food, right? So we're using food to numb.
Yeah.
So in those cases, that's why we have all these different branches of our tree of life, not just the one. It's not just about food. You have you ever been on a diet before?
Oh, of course.
That was a trick question, but it's interesting. Why do people gain the weight right back? I mean, what's the statistics? 99% of people gain the weight back.
96%, I think I actually heard recently.
Yeah. If you just lose weight and you don't address these other areas of your addiction, that weight's just going to come right back. That just means good job on you for that willpower of losing that 20 pounds and making those temporary changes.
Exactly.
You have to make long-term changes. It's a lifestyle, right? And a lot of things that I like to talk about is we substitute these activities that we used to do with eating. We're not saying we're getting rid of eating. We're starting to do these other activities. It might be journaling. It might be scrapbooking. It might be playing pickleball. It might be underwater basket weaving. We're trying to incorporate these new habits. We talk about habit stacking in our life. And the good thing about these new habits, so when we have a sugar binge, that dopamine spike goes whoop, straight up. But unfortunately, when it spikes up like that, it's going to drop right back down again. And you're in a worse position than when you started because the addiction lives in Yeah, the addiction lives in half truths. The addiction's job is to tell you, this is good, you need this. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to feel good. The addiction doesn't have consequences. It only has one job, and that's to get you to do what it wants. So you can be out of pain instantaneously. But the good thing with all these other new habits that we're going to help you create, it's a slow, gentle rise of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, all those feel good neurotransmitters. And the lovely thing is that gentle rise means it's a gentle fall too.
Right.
And you're not all over the place
That's
all
right.
day long.
That's right.
So it's a better deal. Better deal. Okay. We have one more question.
Mhm.
How can I be so good with my food all week, and then when the weekend comes, I lose control over food and I can't seem to stop myself? What's wrong with me?
Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. That hopefully is the best news you've got all day. Nothing is wrong with you. I understand. I lived that life. I absolutely lived where I was, it was called a binging and restricting cycle, where I would binge on a Saturday night, whatever I wanted for an hour or two, and then I would restrict for the next 6.5 days. The entire time I'd be thinking about that binge on Saturday night, right? Either punishing myself for it or looking forward and thinking about what I wanted for the next one, right? So it was this control over my brain and over my body for a full week, every week, that I would repeat, right? Because it wasn't that even the 2 hours that I was binging on the junk food, I would be punishing myself. I would be hating on myself. I would be talking to myself in a really derogatory way.
Oh,
And
it's painful.
this food doesn't even taste that good. What am I doing? And then the next morning I'd wake up,
Sure.
totally miserable, absolutely in regret, very, very, everything hurt. I was very puffy. I was very irritable. And I would feel like that for 2, 3 days. Then I would have a couple of days of just sort of, middle of the road kind of existence. And then I would have one day of feeling really good, right? Maybe, but it was all based on external circumstances or things that were transient. And then I would go right back into the binge. I mean, it was crazy making again. And I thought, this is what people do. They can have the cheat day. They can have the best of both worlds. Look at me doing it. I wasn't doing it. I was miserable. I was miserable. I was totally controlled by the food in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I was depriving myself, right? Intentionally depriving myself. And then what I thought was a reward was really just more punishment. And so there's nothing wrong with you. You are doing exactly what you and your human brain are programmed to do, your brain and body. And we're going to talk a lot more about the neurochemicals and the transmitters and the pleasure trap and all these things. My goal for you is to understand that you are acting exactly the way an animal acts when they are around an environment that is filled with hyper processed, highly palatable foods. And they can only hold themselves off of it for so long before they lose control. You are exactly the way that you're supposed to be. That's why we're going to talk about all of the things. You can't control your biology, right? Or our wiring. What you can control are all of the things around you in your environment.
Yep.
And your attitude and thought process. And eventually the chemical changes in your body and the pathways in your brain will rewire, and you will not even notice those highly processed foods.
Isn't that just like the best news? And maybe that's a good place to end on, is that you get to rewire these neural pathways in your brain. And we're going to help you do that. And it's necessary in order to cover for that to happen. But the one thing I wanted to say about the weekends is, I don't know how many conversations I've had with people that say, I lose 2 pounds during the week, and every weekend they just keep coming back. And I'm so excited about this 2 pound loss, but I just can't keep it off on the weekend. And for me, there was like a feeling coming over by Friday afternoon. I started getting that weekend feel, that celebratory feel, that I had been so strict and so good and measured everything and worked out as hard as I could and all these things during the week. And then it's like, Katie, bar the door. I mean, it is just let loose, man.
That's right.
And it was just an eat fest and an occasion fest from beginning to end. And you're just miserable by Monday morning. But in recovery, every day is the same.
Yeah, so that's right. And that's freedom and it's bliss. And it's not, I used to think it was, you know, when I thought about every day being the same, boredom, but for me, it's freedom. And we'll talk a lot more about that, but you're so right. What you said about, the 2 pounds up and 2 pounds down.
Oh.
For me, it was because I ate so much food and there was so much emotional pain that I had going on. I would gain 5 to 7 pounds. It would be a 5 to 7 pound swing every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think I want to wrap up with saying that I have heard clients say, the problem is I just can't find anything that I like more than the taste of processed food. I don't have anything in my life that I like more than just diving right into whatever that fill in the blank food is. And I'm here to tell you, what's better is peace. It's better to be able to be with your family and focus on relationships. It's better to go to your job and be able to excel. It's better to be able to have the capability to read a book or focus on a hobby or develop whatever. I mean, your potential is limitless. Whenever we get this under control, it just opens up the brain space to focus on other things that you don't have access to when your addiction rules you. Your addiction has one job: to organize your entire day around making sure that it's comfortable and satiated. So when you're out of that cycle, you have opportunities to grow in ways you never thought you could. That's right. That's the ultimate.
Absolutely.
Okay, friend. Until next time, unless there's anything else that you'd like to share before we get off.
I think we're good. Episode 1 in the can.
In the books. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We enjoyed having you, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Paige.